Before Missy Bevers walked through that door, someone wearing gear marked with police-style lettering was already inside the church. That's what the released surveillance shows. And it's where we start. Missy was murdered early on April 18th while preparing to lead a fitness class at Creekside Church. A decade later, police call this case active, not cold. They say no individual has been completely excluded. Watch closely. We'll show you what the tape contains and what it leaves unanswered.
This morning at approximately 5 a.m., Midlothian officers and EMS were dispatched to an unresponsive person to the Creekside Church in the 5400 block of East Highway 287. Midlothian officers arrived at the location just after fire and department medics arrived on the scene, and the medics were attending an unresponsive female as officers entered the church. The officers observed a lot of glass, broken glass on the floor, and the female, as well as the female. They started the search of the building to make sure there were no other individuals in the facility. During the search, the officers found evidence of forced entry into the building, indicating a possible burglary. The entire building was searched and nobody was found. After that, the victim was pronounced deceased by Ellis County Justice of the Peace Bill Woody, and officers at the scene located evidence, again, forced entry. The victim was identified as Terry Beaver, 45 years of age, from Midlothian, Texas. The victim was transported to Dallas County Medical Examiner's Office.
On April 18th, police described broken glass and damage suggesting forced entry. Burglary was one possibility, but they had identified nothing inside as missing at that point.
At this time,
Do you know what time the suspect walked into the church based on the surveillance footage?
I do not know that information at this time. Commander Spann may have more specific information that I'll pass on to him in just a second.
But he walked in before she arrived, and is that how?
My understanding is that he was inside the facility prior to our victim entering the building, according to the video.
So are you saying maybe she interrupted a burglary in progress?
It certainly is possible. The individual was there, and we have evidence of broken glass and damage to the facility prior to her arrival.
On April 22nd, Assistant Chief Kevin Johnson asked the public to study the figure's walk and mannerisms. He asked whether someone might recognize those movements, not saying resemblance would identify the person.
Additional surveillance footage from inside the church just a few minutes ago, and that can be found on our social media sites. We really do believe that somebody still knows that this person is out there. Somebody knows who this person is, and they haven't yet come forward. We're convinced of that, and we ask the public to analyze the footage once again, watch the mannerisms, the walking style of the suspect. If they have any information, please.
Watch the picture cut from one church camera to the next. These cameras were motion activated, not rolling continuously. A gap doesn't mean nothing happened. It means that interval simply wasn't recorded. Missing frames alone aren't proof that nothing was happening inside the church. By around 5 that morning, members of Missy's fitness class began arriving for the session. Participants from the class found her.
She is an instructor for a fitness club here in Ellis County, and she was preparing for a class, and was actually having the class inside the facility today because of the rain, and so her students actually were in the building and found her and notified law enforcement, EMS, of her condition. Yes, the suspect is actually wearing what we would describe as what you see on many times in a TV situation, in a full tactical type gear, a heavy vest, a heavy helmet, gloves, BDU type pants with police on the front and I believe on the back. So we're exploring all possibilities. It certainly is a strange occurrence at this time of morning for a church to be burglarized early in the morning, and also that it certainly looks like an opportunity for it's just an odd random situation that they would actually happen to come into a building that was being burglarized on a Monday morning. But all scenarios are on the table right now. We're just now really getting into the meat of this investigation, so we'll be looking at every avenue of investigation, following that through to the end that we can get.
Johnson laid out a rough timeline next. hedging every number. Listen for 3 times, and for the word about. These are approximate markers, not frame-perfect timestamps.
Here's what we know right now. The suspect arrived at the church first and forced entry into the location. Missy arrived a few minutes later. First time surveillance captured the suspect on video was about 10 minutes before 4 a.m. Miss Bevers arrived at about 4:16 in the parking lot and entered the church immediately. A few minutes later, she was inside the church, not realizing the intruder was already inside, and shortly thereafter she was murdered inside of the church. We're not going to discuss the details of how Miss Bevers was murdered. Our communication center received some calls to 911 at about 5 a.m. reporting the incident to Midlothian Police Department. Just want to reiterate that
At the April 22nd briefing, police said the surveillance cameras woke on motion. They weren't recording a continuous night. When Assistant Chief Johnson gave a time about 10 minutes before 4, that's the first frame the system captured, not necessarily the first minute the figure was inside. Watch the gap between angles here. You can't see what happened there because that interval wasn't recorded. The released tape can't resolve it. This clock gives us a flaw. It doesn't give us a starting point.
We don't have any idea or any evidence that things were actually taken from the facility, but a lot of damage within the facility.
Chief, did you say the victim was shot?
I did not say that. No, sir.
Do we know how the victim was killed?
We're not releasing any information on her injuries right now.
So is there any, in the video, is he doing anything prior to?
In the video, you can see him walking through the hallways, and it's really the only thing that we see him doing is walking through various hallways. I believe the cameras are or motion activated, so as he's moving through, you see them click on, but we can't really tell that he's doing anything particular in any one of the videos, to my knowledge.
On day 1, police described broken glass, forced entry and real damage, then said they hadn't identified anything missing. That left a contradiction inside their own briefing. Damage consistent with forced entry, but no identified theft. A possible burglary was one theory they considered, not a finding. On day 1, Midlothian police described the person in the footage as an unknown male wearing what looked like police-style clothing, a helmet, gloves, and visible police lettering. That's the language officers used in their first briefing. The video itself shows the outer layer, covered hands, head protection and clothing that obscures the person's outline. It does not identify whoever is underneath. 10 years later, Midlothian police used broader words. Their April 2026 release refers to the figure as the suspect, language that describes the investigation without assigning an identity. The difference between those two official descriptions is real, but it doesn't resolve anything about the person's sex or identity. That difference matters. No identity follows. The visible gear tells us far more about an outer layer than it reveals about the human being beneath it. In this film, we call the person in that footage the figure.
The suspect appeared to be armed.
Could not tell from the video that he was armed. He did have some type of object that he was using to pry on doors. The video shows the suspect, as Chief said, walking through the building. We don't have anything identified yet that's been stolen, but there were several doors within the church that were breached by the suspect. But at this time, we don't have anything. The church personnel there have not noticed anything specifically missing, but we do know he went into several rooms. Like he said, she's part of a Camp Gladiator boot camp that meets there. The camp normally starts at 5 a.m. She arrived approximately a little after 4 a.m. and was in the process. Her vehicle was parked by the entry door, unloading her equipment. She was actually found by one of the boot camp participants who got there a little bit early, waited outside for a while, and then once some of the other people arrived, they entered the building to go start their boot camp, and is when they located her. And at that time, just assumed that she was unresponsive until they saw her injuries and called. So our initial response was to an unresponsive female at the church. Like the Chief said, once the officers got there, their preliminary search, they did determine that there was forced entry into the building, broken glass throughout the building, and from that determined that it was possibly a burglary that she may have walked in and interrupted.
How long had the person been there? Any idea before this crime happened?
Like Chief said, we have some video surveillance. The video in the church works on motion section. So we can't say for sure when he got into the building, but the first time he appears on the camera is about 10 minutes before 4 a.m. But that's not to say that he wasn't in the building prior to that, because he may not have been anywhere where they captured video.
Captain Spann put it plainly. The figure first appears about 10 minutes before 4. Not to say, he added, that he wasn't in the building prior.
There were no cameras outside of the church, but again, part of our investigation, there's nothing close to the church, but even businesses that were within eyesight of the church, we've gone and collected video. We've got video from a couple of the businesses around there, and we'll continue to reach out to the community to capture or try to collect any type of video that could assist in this. But there's no outside video on the church. They do have a camera, but it was not functioning at the time.
On April 18, 2016, Captain John Spann said no working camera outside the church caught anyone approaching. Investigators turned instead to nearby businesses, collecting other available video as part of the investigation. That's how the canvas widened past the church itself in those first hours. In April 2026, Midlothian police were still pointing to one more piece of it, surveillance footage of what they called the vehicle believed to be connected to the case. 10 years later, that vehicle remains in the official account, not tied by police to any person, just one more thread in an active case. The church parking lot was never the edge of this investigation.
But there are days where I'm just like overwhelmed maybe.
Yeah.
And that's when like I really start missing Mom, is like when I've had a hard day. And so I'll look at her like Facebook. I do it all the time because she was like chronically on Facebook while we were growing up. And so I'll look back on that and I'll cry some.
I like went to Target and I saw one of my friends and her mom, and it was like such a nice day outside. It was like a Saturday, and I like got in the car and I started crying because I was like, oh my God, like I forgot that like people do that. Like people like hang out with their moms and like go shopping and stuff like that. And so that was like the first time in a long time where I'm like it just kind of like hit me weird, I guess.
Big milestones passed because like there's nothing, I want nothing more in my life. My mom, you know, at my wedding day, and that was just taken from me. And I don't know, it's gonna be a happy day. I know it will be, but it'll also be.
But the file also holds something harder. 10 years of public suspicion aimed at the people closest to Missy, including the man she was married to.
I am, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where people think you have something to do with it. That takes you to a dark place as an individual. And so you're dealing with that and your children and all of this stuff. And so for 2 or 3 years, you don't really know who you are.
This is my way of retaining some aspect of normalcy, you know.
So mad. I'm so angry. And I don't know how I've been able to kind of keep myself together, but I'm so angry that the anger has overpowered the
And like traumatic and all of those things, like yeah, but like at the same time, like I think that it's made all of us like the type of people, who we are today, and like the people that like love like with our full hearts.
We're just very typical, ordinary people living in unordinary circumstances. Man, you gotta figure out how to pull it off. You gotta figure out how to make it work, because at the end of the day, you know, your kids are all that matter. You know, they're all that matter.
On April 18th, police answered 2 questions that sounded routine. Listen again. After meeting this family, those answers carried different weight. What was shown and what never was in the released footage.
Is Miss Bevers in the video as well?
The video that we're going to release to you is of the suspect. There's no video of the assault that took place. There is video of Mrs. Bevers when she first enters the church, but I don't believe that's part of the video that's being released right now.
Okay.
In respect to the family.
But do you know if it was if it happened very quickly, if she arrived and?
It was pretty quick after she got there. Again, the timeline from the boot camp members that were arriving there. Again, we know the time that she entered the church, which I believe is going to be around 4:18, again, approximate time. We see her in the video. She's walking down the main hallway in the vicinity of where we located her. But once she gets out of the range of the camera, it doesn't pick up the motion and the camera turns off. So we don't have anything. Like I said, we have no video of the assault actually taking place.
Did the suspect stay around after the assault happened?
I believe he left shortly after that. Again, going back, piecing together the videos because you're getting different angles depending on what cameras. But I don't believe he left pretty much right after that occurred. I don't believe he went into we don't have any indication that he went anywhere else to any other rooms within the building after the assault took place.
Was anything taken?
At this time, the church members or our department, we have not identified anything to be missing.
So, and is he seen fleeing? Is he seen after the assault?
Again, we see him walking down one of the hallways, but presumably he went out the way he came in, which was through a metal door that had a glass window that was broken out. And again, this is all speculation on our part, that broke the window and reached inside to open the door. But we also have a second and third windows that were broken, but we don't have any evidence that anybody ever went through them, that they were just broken.
10 years after Missy's murder, Midlothian police said this is not a cold case. Investigators reported more than 100 leads in the previous year alone, each one examined and cross-referenced against the active file. Police also addressed the record directly. Much of what circulates online is wrong, including the claim that outside agencies were turned away. The department said it continues working with local, state, and federal partners and said the collaboration remained active in April. And on the question that's followed this case for a decade, whether anyone has been ruled out, Midlothian police gave a direct answer in its statement. No individual has been completely excluded as a suspect, and that remains true until the case is closed. The appeal, though, hasn't changed since week 1.
Top priority is finding Mrs. Killer. Again, want to appeal to the public that no matter how insignificant they feel that a tip might be, that they please do reach out to us. Oftentimes that's just the break in the case that we need. Something somebody thought was small turns out to be significant.
Official tip routes are on screen. Contact Midlothian Police with relevant information. If careful, source-backed breakdowns matter to you, like, subscribe, and share this video. I am Carson Morgan. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe.